Do you ever watch a creator or read a blog and hear about these amazing outsized redemptions? I mean, someone who goes to the Maldives and stays in an overwater villa. Or they're flying in business class all over the world and they're getting a cent per point redemption that just seems astronomical. I mean, it may be something like 5 cents per point, 7 cents per point, 12 cents per point. Well, all of those things are indeed possible in the points and miles world. But that saying that they're possible doesn't mean they're easy to do. In fact, what is often not communicated by creators is that although these things are possible, even those of us who are deep into this and have all the tools, I mean, we pay for point.me and we pay for seats.arrow and points, and all the methods of finding the best deals, we don't often communicate, and that's probably, I'm guilty of it as well. We don't often communicate that though these things are possible, even we don't get them all the time. Even we can't find them all the time. Because just because something's possible doesn't mean that it's accessible. Doesn't mean that it's always easy. So that's what I want to talk about in the video today, is the reality of great point redemptions and what that really means in the real world. So if you would, please hit the like and subscribe button and let's discuss it together. So indeed, it's possible to get great outsized value. You can stay in overwater villas. You can do that. And sometimes at those hotels, you can get 2 cents per point on occasion. With some Hyatts, you can get 3 and 4 cents per point for hotel stays. And with airfare, sky's the limit. When I've done my evaluations of what are reasonable redemption values, like on the average for especially business class flights, I found that many of them you can, if you cherry pick, which means you're picking the best deals you can find 4 cents per point pretty regularly, 5, 6, 7, 8 cents per point. There's one particular airline I found that on average, if I'm cherry picking and being very specific, I can get 15 cents per point on average. Now, that doesn't mean that it's easy. And that's what we have to address. So who can get these deals? And this is just flat out truth as far as I can see. This is just being as real as I can be with you. And first of all, the people who can get the best deals, particularly on flights and to a lesser degree on hotels, those people are those who are super flexible with their dates. Now, what I mean by that is that some people are restricted by their schedule. They only get so much paid time off, or maybe they're tied to a specific schedule, like a school teacher would be tied to spring break and summer. Well, the problem with that is spring break is when more people are traveling. So the prices are higher and the points prices are higher. Same is true with summer. The truth is that if you're a person who has to fly on certain times, like spring break, especially high traffic times, and you have to fly in the summer, I hate it for you, but the reality is you're probably not going to be able to find, on average, as good a deal as somebody who's more flexible about when they can travel. It's just a reality. In fact, when we've been restricted, because this happens all the time, when Nona and I, my wife, when we're booking one of our trips, oftentimes we'll find one direction and we find an awesome deal. Well, when we find that, let's say we're flying business class over to Europe and I find 60,000 points. Well, I think that's a great deal for a $3,000 or $4,000 flight in business class. So we'll book it. But now we got to get home. And getting home, we're more restricted on dates because maybe we're only wanting to go for 10 days or 8 days or whatever it is. Well, then we've got a much more narrow window at the tail end of the trip to come home. So it might be 2 or 3 or 4 day window. And because we don't want to cut our trip too short, maybe we got obligations that are coming up after that. So now, oftentimes, we're not able to find as good a deal coming home. So there will be times where we're flying over in business or we're flying home in premium economy or in, main cabin extra in the back of the plane or whatever it may be. And that's because we have forced ourselves through the first redemption to not be as flexible with the second redemption. So it even happens to us. and we have generally a lot of flexibility. So that's the first person who can get, on average, better deals, is the person who's flexible on their dates. The other thing that makes a person very, very likely to get really good, flexible, great rewards is if they're flexible with their location. In other words, if you're saying, I want to go to Paris. Now, if you're real flexible on dates, you still might be able to find a great deal. But sometimes Paris doesn't have as good a deal as Amsterdam, or Paris doesn't have as good a deal as Budapest or Rome or whatever it may be. And so flexibility on your location. Now, for Nona and I, this isn't a problem because we want to see everywhere. We're not tied to going to Paris Disney. We've already done that. So we don't tied to do that. So we're just like looking for where can we go and where can we get a great deal and see something we haven't seen before. So if you have that flexibility on your location. Now, let me tell you, if you have flexibility on both of those, that's a superpower. So if you say, we can go anytime we want, we can go anywhere we want, you will find good deals. That's just a fact. If you'll go anytime, anywhere, you're going to find great, great redemption deals. But those are two things that a lot of people can't do. And it's just a reality of it. The third thing that kind of helps is that the reality, sometimes you just get lucky. Sometimes you just get lucky. That happened to me just yesterday when we had already booked. We're going to go on a Mediterranean cruise leaving out of Venice, ending up in Istanbul. Istanbul's a little hard to find great flights back to the U.S. with our particular points partners that we have. But I looked and I looked and I looked, and sure enough, it popped up. Now, we had to leave one day earlier than we were going to, but it's a nighttime flight, so we're not missing much of our time that we were planning on. So it cut us down to 9 days instead of 10 days. But wow, it was worth it because I found through British Airways and American an AA business class flight back to the U.S. Now, there is some inconvenience with it because we're going to have a longer flight, stay the night in London, and then fly back, have a longer layover, and then get back to Memphis, where we're based out of. But I found it for 57,500 American miles, and here's the kicker, only $127 in taxes and fees. And if you know anything about flying on British Airways, the rest of them on the list were $900+ in taxes and fees. So I snagged it up immediately and got it. So we just got lucky. We just got lucky because it was looking like before, well, we're going to be stuck back in the main cabin. But we're not because we got lucky. Now, that brings up the second thing that has to be mentioned about what I just said. If you're also flexible about timing, in other words, you're willing to take a long flight, you're willing to have an overnight layover somewhere, you're willing to go into the lounges for 5 hours, that flexibility also is going to make it way more possible. Because here's just the truth. The most convenient flights are generally not the cheapest flights. It's just a fact. Well, I hope this is helpful to you today. Please consider my channel memberships. I have 2 of them, 2 tiers. One gives you all my channel member only videos, early release videos. The higher tier is for people who are really wanting to play this game hard on expert mode, and that's Spreadsheet Warriors. Consider both of those. You can hit the link below. Thanks for being here today. Please hit the like and subscribe button. I hope this is helpful to you. I'm just trying to be real about it with folks. Take care. I'll see you here next time.